Alright, well, no better time to start than now. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be our stream. So the plan is to start from the very beginning and just kind of go through the game and give some tips, tricks, maybe even go about the game with just maybe some of your guys' suggestions here and there. But the plan is we're going to start with a quality build, because the weapons in this game are really good with just being very versatile. You can switch around their scalings and just make whatever you really want. So the plan would be to start this melee build, because a lot of people really like to stick with melee builds. Weapons are a key part of every single build, including magic builds and faith builds, all the above, right? So the plan is to go quality, just so we can have like a mixture of different kinds of weapons that we can use, kind of give different tricks on different kinds of styles that you could do, and do all this kind of stuff, as well as have enough vigor. So the best way to do a quality build is to go with the Vagabond Origin, because it gives you a good amount of starting strength as well as dexterity. It's got really high vigor, so you can start off with a lot of health, and you got a decent amount of endurance based off of maybe some of the other ones. It's one of the higher level starting classes, and it can really get you through the first part of the game very well if you kind of just like to do those kind of builds. So without a further ado, I can just kind of introduce to you what I started here. Obviously, I said we started with the Vagabond class. You don't have to really worry too much about your origin, because it's mostly for if you want to min-max. So you could base it off of the items that you start with. If you really wanted a shield and a sword, and you really wanted to start off with something like that, you could always just start off with the Vagabond. Or if you wanted to start off with some kind of magic, you can start with one of the other builds, and you can still build into some kind of more melee functioning kind of mage build, right? So you don't have to worry too much about it. It's mostly for min-maxing, and later on you will see that even if you somehow mess up your stats, you won't have to worry too much about that, because there's a way to deal with that. All right, so I already set up our character. We named him Lord Oliver because he's our knightly knight, and just made him nice young age, kind of just gave him a nice fancy mustache and beard, beautiful white anime hair for all you fans out there. And we decided to start with the Golden Seed. Now you got a few options here. You could obviously go none if you want to just go hardcore and just not start with anything, or you could start with the most physical item that you'll use for a while is the Crimson Amber Medal. Every single one of these Souls games, if you're a veteran, you know it'll start with some kind of thing that you can just use as one of your equipments. Back then it was rings, it's medallions and stuff like that. In this game, this will just give you a little bit extra health, and it's permanent. It's not a usable item. It'll always be there for you, so it's always a good choice if you would like. But most of these, you got like a little bit extra runes here, or if you wanted to start off with just using summons, if you're a big fan of summons, they have an ashes here already for you to start with. You got cracked pot for crafting, a stone sword key for if you wanted to enter certain kinds of secret areas early, or of course bewitching branch, boiled prawn, Shibari's roll. Quite a few of these items are mostly just for just starting off, right? So I decided to start with the Golden Seed, because what Golden Seeds are for is upgrading the amount of flasks you can have. Flasks are your main healing item, as well as how you can restore mana if you split it into your blue flask as well. I just like starting off with the Golden Seed just so I can have a quicker head start to having more flasks to be able to heal myself. So that's what I started with. You can choose whatever you would like, of course. And without further ado, let's just get this started. All right, and as we load in here, I will probably skip the opening cutscene, just because if you're going to play it, you might as well experience it yourself, right? So, as we load in, get your, if you bought it with a pre-order, you will get a free taunt, as well as your tarnished wizened finger, which is how you can write messages. Messages will be spread out all across the world. Very helpful, very not helpful. Just be careful on which ones you trust, right? here we go. As you can see, it's time to start. There's the tree. So this is the first tutorial, quote-unquote, area of the game. You just have to mostly run through. And once you enter this area, you will find yourself in a predicament because you will see yellow fog, and you cannot really pass that right now because... uh-oh. You're presented with your first situation here. Now, you will find that maybe you're not prepared for this, and not many people are. As you can see, you have no healing items. You have no way of dealing with this guy on a fair level, one would say. And I should probably mention that just like most of night classes from other games, you start off a little over-encumbered, so that's why I took off my helmet there. I was doing what you would call fat rolls. Alright, now we had our health depleted, which is not that big of a deal because it was bound to happen. It will continue with this black screen, kind of like a little cutscene. You will eventually get pulled into this new opening area and introduce you to the first part of the game. And there he is, your most helpful companion.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on his side. We found him here, after all. One of his kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring. Even if it does violate the Golden Order.
Alrighty, so a little lore for you guys there. This is where we will pick ourselves up, and it will introduce you to the real tutorial area if you choose to do that. You can skip it, of course. You don't have to do it. It's very simple, but I'll probably just do it just because it's a quick way to get a few of your bearings in, right? So here we go. The real beginning. So as I was saying before, here is your Flask of Crimson Tears, your main healing item, and this is what restores your MP. Now, right here, you will see the guy. He will just tell you that if you take the plunge, you will find yourself here in the tutorial area. It'll give you little boxes and everything to give you some hints and tricks. I'll let you read those on your own when you get through here because this is for everyone. You don't have to. Now, here's your standard bonfires of the games. I am going to use that golden seed right away so I can have another charge of my flasks. I always like to keep at least one blue flask despite what kind of build I start off with, even a melee build, because some weapon arts will actually require MP. So sometimes if I want to use those, I will just have that just in case I somehow lose all my MP, because let's be honest, I don't have much right now. Now here you are. It's giving you some camera stuff, lock on, all that nonsense. It just kind of pulls you through this beginning area. Not too hard, not anything you should really have to worry about. You use that new mechanic now because we're going to have to later. Now watch out for this spot. There is someone shooting arrows up there. Not too big of a concern, really. And of course, for Soul veterans, you might be a little tricked up with how you do two-hand in this game. Instead of just pressing Y, they had a thing because of how many things you have to do with interact and stuff. They just decided to make it where you have to do two different things, which is like hold Y and then press like the direction of the weapon you want to two-hand. So, for example, Y with the right light will give you two-hand of your armament, and Y and your left light will give you for your left hand. So, not too much different, really. Oops. Pretty standard stuff here for anybody who's not a new recruit. You guys know what to do in these kind of situations. There's nothing too new other than a few mechanics. But as you can see, we got like 150 runes, so every rune counts, if you ask me. Alrighty. There we go. So what you will find to make this game just a tad easier, because it's so fast now compared to some of the other Souls games, so you'll probably find it a little hard to block certain enemies sometimes, or not block, but like avoid them, right? And that's what a physical shield is really useful in this game, if you ask me. It really helps with not only some of the new mechanics like you just saw, but if you can't really react to some of their attacks fast enough, it's always good to just have a shield held up right before you roll or something, just because it kind of gives you that leeway of not getting hit. So even if it's not even like a 100% physical block, you don't have to worry too much about it, because at least you're not taking full damage from you missing your roll, right? So like you can see, we made it out of the cave, and it's time to start the real adventure. Alrighty. And here's our second grace. Now that's stone sword key that we could have started with. You could use it on this, but if you notice, there's usually 2 of these gargoyles for every single one, and one will usually have a stone sword key in it already. So funny enough, this one would require 2, so you wouldn't even be able to go to that area if you started with it. So not too big of a concern. We got our multiplayer items there for co-op. And here we go, rising to the beginning. Just behind this door, our adventure begins. Okay. And by the way, if for some reason the balancing of these sounds just doesn't seem to be cutting it, like if my voice is too quiet and you can't hear me, just let me know in the chat. I tried my best to make sure it was balanced on OBS, so I'm not sure how balanced it is in the stream itself. So here's our first conversation with a real live man.
Yes. Tarnished, are we? Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity.
Okay. So he's just kind of giving you hints on how to start the game. You obviously have no way to get to this round table that you can assume is the hub world, right? He just kind of tells you what you need to do.
with grace. You may also behold that is the guidance. It will lead, even if it leads you to you.
So there he goes, describing to you more about how basically these graces, if you see, will lead you to where you need to go. It can kind of be a little inaccurate sometimes, and it mostly just does for the main story. So if you kind of struggle on finding your way there, the map, if you see some of these graces, the story maps will actually kind of lead you to the next grace that you need to go to sometimes. But considering our situation here, we're presented with our first boss. Now the question is, do we actually go for this? Because he's not that bad, and we got our healing items now. We're just extremely underleveled, is all. Now what I like to do with this guy is I like to run him back to this flat area just so I don't accidentally run into a rock or something. Now for melee builds, as you can see, you're mostly going to want to keep yourself patient. I like to float the backside of the horse or his right side first phase where his, or not right side, but left side where his shield is. He doesn't have many attacks with him, so I like to keep in that blind spot until about second phase when he starts using it a little bit more. Now see, in that situation, if I had my shield up, even though I didn't react to it, I would at least not take that damage. But right now, we're not doing so bad, despite just coming out of the... Ah, now see, I got greedy there. With how mobile this boss is, you might want to stick to mostly light attacks or uncharged heavies, just because he moves around so much, and we don't have our horse yet to where we can really deal with that. But this game is kind of closer to Bloodborne with its stamina system, to where you can kind of get away with a lot, get a little greedy here and there with your stamina, just because of how little most of it your actions require. So that's really nice, especially with melee builds. Just because it kind of just gives you a lot of free ability to just do whatever you want, right? Especially with how fast-paced this game is. Sometimes you're going to panic, and you don't want to suffer too greatly with that, right? With rolling too much or attacking too much with some of your heavier stamina drains with, like, big weapons. So that leeway is very handy. Now, let's not get greedy here. Let's get a good drink, even though he had an opening. You are definitely going to want to stay patient when it comes to healing in this game. Too many opportunities to get hurt while you're drinking. So I always wait till I get into a normal position where I can usually punish him for an attack to heal, despite losing my chance to attack, you know? See, there's that situation again where I missed the roll timing, but I still was able to keep myself from getting hurt too much just because of this physical shield, right? That's what I like to do. I like to hold it up right before my chances of rolling, just because I don't want to miss my situation too harshly. Now, we actually might do this first try. Stamina management, though. I know there is still a lot of leeway, but that does not mean you can get greedy. Ah, see? Now here we go. Ah, there it is. All right. We got close. Despite coming fresh out of the oven, we totally got him to that last spot. Alrighty. Well, do we try again or do we just push forward? Actually, you know what? Let's come back to him later. We got some other business to do. So we started with a quality build, like I said before. And what quality builds really like is big weapons. And I am not going to lie, I am looking for a bigger sword other than this little long sword, right? Though I do have this halberd, I do believe. Yep. I'm not really comfortable with pole arms too much, so I don't really kind of... Actually, you know what? Drop that pole arm. We can wear our helmet with medium weight, so that's actually smarter for me to know that. I didn't know that. So we're just going to kind of run around him. Now the music changed, that means he just saw us, so we're going to hide for a second. Gonna keep an eye on where he's looking. I'd rather not start the battle again if I am not wanting to fight him right now. Okay, so here's our second location. This spot, this little church on the, well, next side of this first spot is just our little church, right? Our next grace that'll lead us to the next position. Now, with our discovered grace, just like it told us here, you will see on our map the grace line is actually matching up quite well. So, for any of you who were kind of confused on what they were even talking about on with this whole grace leading you to where your next destination is, that's kind of what it's trying to say. It's a little easier to see it on the map. Now, I don't want to upgrade my weapons or armor just yet, just because I don't want to use this stuff. Now, these guys are going to be spread out throughout the entire map. They all kind of look similar with minor differences, but they're all just traveling merchants. These are going to be your merchants of the game.
You should buy us a crafting essential. The kit costs at the import.
So he kind of just gives you a hint that maybe you should buy the crafting kit right away, right? It's only 300 souls. We went through our little beginning area, so we have enough to buy it. I'm just going to get it. It's really handy. When we come back, I might come and get our telescope here and some cookbooks, just because the telescope's really handy.
I'm glad you took my warning to heart. You've made an X.
So he's really helpful, him and his fellow compatriots. So, oh, actually, real quick, I missed this my first playthrough, but apparently, if you wait here at night, you will find another NPC will visit you, and they'll give you another essential item. So sometimes you have to resit at the grace to make some of these things come to fruition. But, oh, well. Something's telling me I'm missing a certain part that I need to do. But as you can see, here's your messages. They're already telling me. Try night, necessary item. They'll be there. But something's telling me I have to meet our first lady in waiting before we do so. Now, what's really interesting about the time of day is it's not too big of a factor in this game, but it's still a cool mechanic, and there are some things that happen at night or in day that don't happen in the vice versa, right? Some enemies, like there are some bosses in certain areas that will actually only spawn in at night, and some of those bosses are really cool, not gonna lie. So here we are using our new sneak mechanic. It's a little bit more helpful than just kind of running in and letting everybody see you. Because if we weren't careful, this guy over here could have kind of ganked us up a little bit. So, if you were paying attention to which way the grace is pointing you to, it's going to point you in this direction. But, of course, there will be side areas and side missions it's not going to point you to, and that's actually what this little cave is here. It has nothing to do with anything, just more exploration. Now, considering we haven't met our necessary person yet, we cannot level up yet, and it would be the smart thing to do to go find that person first. However, being a little confident as we are, let's kind of explore this first cave first. Now, since we have to be careful a little bit more, I'm going to be sneaking in. As you can see, we are presented with our favorite enemy, dogs. Every Souls veteran's favorite enemy. But to be honest, we have a physical shield, so I'm not too worried about dogs. They actually get hard countered by shields in this game because of the said new mechanic. It really helps you in that regard. Now, like you see, even though we were kind of just face front in front of these dogs, they're still kind of, well, dumb. The sneaking mechanic is a little broken in some regards, but it's alright. Since he's our last pup, we're gonna bait him down here. Ooh, actually, I think I just heard another dog. That's kind of... Alright. Another pup down. Uh-oh. These guys are the runts, so not too much health. We're not too worried. So in these little zones, you'll just find simple stuff. There's not going to be anything too great. Sometimes you'll find a really cool armament or armor or something in them, but since this is just the first area, all we're really going to find is, well, actually, cracked pot's actually not that bad of a loot find. So we were talking about crafting items, right? Now, in this game, we have a fun new little item called cracked pots, and I didn't know this my first playthrough either, but apparently they're reusable, the pot part, not the other ingredients. So, for example, if we take a look at our fire pot here, it requires, on the top, your container, which is your cracked pot. You got mushrooms and smoldering butterflies. Now, the mushrooms and the butterflies, you have to use those. They're finite. They're not going to stay around. But the pots stay, and that's something I didn't know. So it took me several hundred hours in the game to realize that, because I usually don't use items in Soul games other than your basic healing item like the Crimsons or the Estus. Alright, now we kind of got to focus up a little bit here because he's kind of messing up on our shield here. Missed the backstab, but that's alright. If we were brave, we would parry him. But I'm not feeling brave. So we're just going to backstab him instead when he gets a little open. Now, a fun little new mechanic is your jump attacks. They changed it up how it works in this game. It's actually a lot easier to do it than how it used to function, if you ask me. And it causes a lot of stagger. I really like jump attacks in this game. They're really helpful with staggering certain bosses. And sometimes you can get that poise break that you saw back in Sekiro. They brought that kind of back a little bit. And you can sometimes break their poise with that, like you kind of saw with the dogs out there here and there. Okay. So I just kind of run away from this attack so he gets himself wide open when he's done. Now see, we kind of traded there. That was kind of my bad there. Now, we've been playing Souls games for a very long time. I actually started on Dark Souls 3, so I'm very used to how the mechanics and the systems work usually. So that's why I'm not really having too many issues with these guys, especially since I've already played it on our first playthrough, but you'll kind of get the hang of it as you kind of go along. And we just unlocked our first talisman, so these are the rings we were talking about, right? You could have started with that little bit of health one as your beginning gift, but since we didn't, I might as well equip the fire resistance. You never know, you know? Better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Okay, now, we just touched something that kind of sends us on the outside of our little cave, right? It kind of just sent us right to the back. That's a really handy mechanic that they do, and it kind of helps keep the clutter down from how many graces you have spread out in the world, to be honest. So I kind of like how they did that, because just kind of seeing like more grace than there is already just because they have one for the entrance and the exit for some of these ruins, it would just kind of be cluttered up. So I kind of like how they did that, where you can just kind of spawn out. So I kind of want to give you guys a situation on that kind of posture break that they brought back from Sekiro. But we gotta make sure we don't kill the guy too early. So maybe a charged heavy attack. Alright, now that right there. It even gives you a nice loud sound to hear it, so. Oh, hello. I kind of like this helmet a little better. It looks a little bit more fancy. It offers just the... So they're practically the same weight. It's just mostly those little minor differences there in the stats. Not too big of a deal. Maybe we'll find some really cool armor later on. Get ourselves spiffied up, make us look more lordly to fit our name. Alrighty, so most animals in this game, they just really drop little crafting items. It's not really worth farming, to be completely honest, because you'll usually find a lot throughout the game, but if you're a bow user, you're probably going to do it a lot. They're really good with crafting with bow and arrows and stuff if you don't want to buy them. Very handy. Okay, so here we are at the next grace. Now this third story grace, as you can see. 1, 2, 3. This is where you're actually going to find your first major NPC. She's going to allow you to heal, well, not heal, but level up. She's going to give you your horse and all that fun jazz. So it's very specific to this spot. As you see, she's here. Now here is
Greetings,
our quote-unquote maiden.
traveler from beyond the fog. I am Melina. I offer you an accord.
All right. So here we are.
Have you heard of the Finger Maidens? They serve the Two Fingers, offering guidance and aid to the tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
There we go again.
I can play the role of maiden.
So here's where she's talking about her
To
role,
aid
right?
you,
She gains you
lean into the
strength.
foot of-
She wants to take,
Then
but
it's
she
settled.
wants
Summon me. I bequeath.
in exchange for you to take her to the Erd Tree. Now, obviously, this is where
Use it.
your
It will summon a spectral torrent has chosen.
horse
you.
comes
Treat
from,
him
is
with
this little ring, right? So now, here's how she offers you strength. She has given
Shall I
you
turn your runes to strength.
the ability to level
Let
up
my
now.
hand rest upon you.
Now, I don't know if I have
moment.
enough.
Share them with
Oh,
me.
yeah, look at that. Perfect. So,
Your thoughts, your ambitions, the principles you would follow.
So here we are at our level up menu. We are going to go full physical build, right? So we are going to mostly focus on strength and dexterity. Now, the reason why I'm not focusing on just one or the other is because we are going to go for just like that mixed build where we can have both fast and big weapons, kind of utilize both sides of all kinds of weapons, right? Not planning to do magic on this run, so as you can see, they're all low, and we're going to keep it low because I'm just going to keep it physical this time. Here's your health, here's your FP, as they call it in this game, and your stamina. So this is also important for giving you more equip load, which is really helpful if you want to equip some of those heavier weapons or armor. And I think, based on what I'm actually planning on doing here in a second, I'm going to do this. Now, like I stated before, I wanted to find a big weapon, right? And most commonly, we're looking for a big old greatsword. So, two really good options in this game. We're actually really close to one now. you'll see these black carts all across the lands, whether they're being pulled or whether they're stationary like this. You'll find them all over the place throughout the world. So what you need to understand, though, is they're actually kind of like a big old treasure chest. And here is our first big weapon. Our Lord Sorin's Greatsword. Now, we could use this throughout the game, or if you're a man of culture, we're actually going to head south. And as we continue to expand this map, we will find down south, there's a fun little... Ooh, here we go again. There's a fun little spot. There we go. Equip load's a little bit tipsy with our heavy armor. But down south we'll find a big ol' fort, and in that fort there's a special little weapon that's kind of a staple in Souls games that I'm actually looking to use because it is a personal favorite of mine, and it's just overall a good weapon. However, this one, you'll see under its stats, it's got critical 110. Now, most weapons, they only have critical 100, which is the standard. But critical 110 gives you a little bit extra damage in your backstabs and your riposts, right? So that's the plus side to this one here. This is a good greatsword under the fact that most greatswords don't have that increased crit range because you mostly think of like dex weapons for that kind of thing. But let's just kind of start exploring here. Now, there's that sneak coming in again. It's not very well. It's not like the most accurate because like I can kind of just do this and he kind of, well, maybe if I don't mess it up, but sometimes you can kind of just be a little bit in front of them and it won't catch you, or sometimes it does. Some enemies just aren't affected by it, but now here's our second one. We got a flail. Funny enough, it took me a second to learn this, but flails are actually a really handy dex weapon because, one, it offers you blunt damage, right? And there's not many dex weapons that give blunt damage, but also they can't be parried, funny enough, except for like special like weapon arts. There's certain weapon arts that will be parryable, but for the most part, you can't parry and repost any kind of flail. And that's really handy in PvP because there's a lot of people who like to spam parry, and if you just kind of want to mess with people who just don't know that, you can kind of just use a flail. Also, it offers bleed build-up, which is always a plus side, right? Kind of sneak up on this guy. I think there's dogs too. Yep, there we go. So we put ourselves into a situation here. This is what the big sword is for. Not only is it big damage, but it's big range. I personally like having the range, so despite having a slower swing speed, the range is very, very handy. There we go. Oh yeah! We forgot a crucial part of this spot that we're at. I wonder if we can line this up. Nope. Nope. Okay. So crucial spot about this part is the map over there. You might want to grab that. Now, I do believe the guy with the horn is wandering in the center. Or did I already get him? So you'll find a lot of groups have that one enemy with a horn and they'll just alert everybody. And I've seen a huge mess start up from... Oh, there he is. Okay, so you can see the horn on his side there. He blows that, and all the enemies are here. It's over for me. Here's our big knight. Let's see if we can get him to drop anything. So there's that new mechanic. It is also really good for getting that posture break. But it's also kinda... Ooh. It's also very risky sometimes because it does use stamina to block, of course, and then stamina to attack. So you might have a situation where you run out of stamina if you're fighting a boss and try to do it. Also, it's slow, so there's a time and place for everything. So here we are. We found our map, and it's going to kind of give us an outline of our first area here. So we are here, and you will see all kinds of fun stuff. You got runes here. You got this fun little microscope. They're not microscope. My mind's drawing a blank here. I can't think of what they're called, but you know, these things are kind of interesting. They kind of give you like a bird's eye view of the entire area, and you'll see these. These right here usually indicate ruins. It's actually kind of helpful that some of them look like that, but not all ruins are going to be labeled, so you kind of have to keep an eye out for just hidden ones as well. Ah, yes. Oh, we haven't used our horse yet, so real quick. Here's our pouch setup. I don't need these, but I have a comfort putting my bottom of the D-pad as my horse call. So I'm going to, here's your spectral steed whistle. I'm going to set it right there. And as you can see, there it is. It makes it a lot easier to kind of call your horse, right? You got double jumps and all that fun jazz. Here's another good thing about big weapons is when you're on a horse, you kind of want range to like kind of beat out some of the enemies, because getting staggered by getting hit while you're on a horse is actually hell in this game. Stagger lasts forever, and I would rather not deal with that. So I like using bigger weapons in that case because you have more range and leeway to kind of just coast them out. And if you always pre-swing, you never have to worry too much. Since you have so much mobility, big weapons are really good on horse just because of all this mobility that you have. You can swing, hold it, move while you hold it. It's just very, very useful. Alright, so like I said, it's night and we met our first NPC, so there's a possibility that who we're looking for is actually over there now. So I'm actually going to warp there. The Church of Ella.
This way, Tarnished. May I have a word?
So like I said, there she is.
A pleasure to meet thee, Tarnished. I am the witch Renna. I'd heard tell of a Tarnished hurtling about atop a spectral steed, and upon looking into the matter, the talk I surmise is of thee. Thou art possessed of the power, no? To call forth a spectral steed named Torrent.
So here she is. She is going to give
I was
you
entrusted by Torrent.
a very important item here. Now, if you miss her, like I did my first playthrough, it's not too big of a deal, really, because you can always just come back and buy it in your hub area once you unlock it.
Forgive mine intrusion, Tarnished. I doubt we shall again meet. But all the same, learn well the lands between. How long will it be, I wonder, before the Tarnished tire of obeisance to the two fingers?
Didn't realize she was not shutting up yet. But anyways, it's your spirit bell. Now we kind of talked about that earlier. The spirit bell is so you can summon all these little spirits. They're kind of the easy mode of this game, where if you really needed help, it's very, very, how would I say, helpful, honestly. To be completely honest, the best way to just say is if you're struggling with a boss and you are in an area where you can use them, it's just really nice to have it on hand, because not everybody is a Souls veteran, and even Souls veterans have struggled a lot in some of the bosses in this game. So it's not only a very helpful tool, but it's a very fun tool to use too. So if you're like a magic build, you can just have like a wall of enemies just like running at them while you just sit back and cast. Now, of course, they all have their own health bars, so you might want to try to keep them safe. But, okay. Now if you look in the bottom, or not the bottom, but the middle left there, you'll see that little gravestone symbol. That means you can summon there. Oh, I almost forgot. I can't summon these dogs. Oh wait, yes I can. Huh. Well, I didn't think I had enough MP, but here they are. Nice. Well, every summon except for an exception requires MP, so if you don't have enough, you can't summon them in. So here we are. We got our dogs. I guess they're simple enough to where we can summon them in. Now, to give a quick test real quick, you'll see that they make the game really easy. They'll have their own aggros and all that. Now, they don't do much damage, but they are very good at distracting and giving stagger on some enemies. So you can just kind of free ball whatever you want. It really makes the game a lot easier for yourself. So if you have this huge amount of enemies and you're like in a pickle, they kind of help you. With standard enemies, they are really good at kind of just wheedling them out, right? Because as you can see, if you just sit back and watch, well, they kind of just do all the work for you. Go get them. So you can kind of see how these are really strong in this game. It's real. Ooh, it's really useful. Ah, big shield. Big rolls. Oof. So maybe later. Very helpful dogs. Thank you. If you ever want to send them early, just do it again, and they're gone. Doesn't require MP or anything. But I will say, if you summoned once, you can't summon again until you sit down, so you might want to be kind of careful with that. So if they die until you sit down at a grace. Our first Ash of War. And our Whetstone that'll allow us to change them, so. You know, I didn't check to see what... so just like most standard great swords, our weapon art is stamp, and it kind of gives us a stamp, and it kind of sends us into an animation that allows us to kind of have a feint to just kind of swing it, but situational weapon art. I don't care for it too much, so that's why the weapon arts, or the Ashes of War as they call them in this game, it's so nice that you can just kind of customize whatever you want. Not only the stats and the scaling, but the weapon arts as well, so you can kind of just mix all kinds of stuff. Let's not get a little too hasty here. So, like you see there, that's a very slow option, and it doesn't work on everything. So there's that big boy range we were talking about. Alright, so, as you can see, progress is that way. But we're going to kind of mix it up a little bit. We're going to go down first. We're going to go down south, because there's a special little something there that I want. As great as this weapon is. There we go. We'll give ourselves... Oh, 2 levels. Okay, we'll give ourselves a little bit more endurance. We're sitting at a good health at the moment, but... maybe get these a little balanced as we go along. So call up our horse. We're just going to go around, because we already picked that area clean. Maybe a few small items here and there, but not too much of a concern for me right now. Ah. Now there's a fun little weapon. One of the more standard straight swords in this game, however... Uh-oh. Okay, here we go. See, now there's that situation where I said it's slow, right? You can't always rely on the new mechanics. Sometimes you just have to go with the classics, right? Gotta mix it up. Oh, that's right. So funny enough, if you guys ever remembered, if you ever played Breath of the Wild, there were certain moments at night at 11 o'clock during certain days, you would get this thing called the Blood Moon, and funny enough, during that Blood Moon, it was mostly for just restoring enemies, but you would have like increased luck chances and stuff for like upgrading certain kinds of foods and stuff. Well, in this game, if you see those petals flying around, it kind of stopped right now, as you can see, but those petals give you increased, I do believe, drop rates or ruins or both. It's one of the two.
You there? Could you help us out, Cully?
Oh, what's going on? Ah, yes, another easily missed NPC here.
Yeah, you there? Stop pretending you can't see me.
It's our favorite bush.
What'd you go and do that for?
So, I usually like to roll for certain situations like this because if you hit them too hard, they might die, and that's never a smart thing. So, for some situations like that, just roll. It makes it a little easier.
Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you? Thank you. The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree. Lucky you came along, really.
So, this guy right here,
Oh, when they...
he's not really
I hope you...
super important, but let me tell you,
I could... Then I'd be...
he's a little cutie. I like him. He can offer you in certain spots to change the looks of your clothes and stuff for free, because you can do it yourself, but it costs some ruins. So
Right. But I'm...
very easy to miss, because like sometimes if you're just riding the path, I don't even think I remember seeing him the first time, because I just rode the path and I never heard him. So I guess for just anybody who's still late game or not, he's here. So here's this telescope. That's what the word was. My goodness. As you can see, it gives you a good bird's eye view of some of that area. You can kind of see the lake over here. Small tree, forest, all that stuff. In fact, if you're careful enough, you can actually see yourself too. Right? Where am I? Well, there's the grace, so I should be right. Whatever. I wanted to see myself from a bird's eye view. Oh well. Now here we have an enemy that is on horseback. Horseback fighting, you gotta be real careful. You can't roll, you can only jump, and you can only somewhat speed up for like a second to kind of just like avoid certain attacks. It's not very reliable sometimes in certain positions, so you got to be careful. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself stun locked to death, because the stun lock on horseback is rough. You'll just keep getting hit, true comboed, and then sometimes fall off to where you'll just lie there and take it. Never fun. Never fun. Oh, right, it's night. So here's one of those bosses we were talking about. He only shows up at night. We can attempt it. Let's take out all these guys first, though, because we don't need them charging in. Oh, now see, there's the song change. You can hear that he sees us. Nice. So real quick. Let me check these gauntlets real quick. See if they're any better. Not really. So, okay. If we're fast enough, we might get a good free hit here. There we go. So here's your night cav. Now, it's kind of easier to do horseback fighting on him, but you got to be careful. Like I said, you don't want to get staggered into oblivion. You kind of just got to call your shots and avoid the best you can. His attacks are slow enough to where you can avoid it, but if you see that prep, just back out. Don't even challenge it. It's never worth it. Now take a look when we hit both of them here. You can see that they each have their own health bar. That's because, well, they do. So you can actually get this guy's horse to die first, and he's kind of a little bit easier to take out when he's not on the horse, because he's a slow baby boy off his horse. So you kind of wanted to maybe go for that horse. See, there's that hit stun we're talking about. We got to stay away from that as much as possible. We got lucky there. I'm going to stay on this side of the bridge just because we don't want to deal with any other enemies. Now, he knocked us off our horse. Now, we got to be real careful calling him in. Okay. Not doing a whole lot of damage yet. Uh-oh. Well. Nice knowing you. Guess we gotta do a better job at keeping an eye out where we're at. Rookie mistake. Ah, well. Well, like you can see, it's morning. So when you die, the day kind of changes up sometimes, like the time of day. And like we said, he only appears at night. So the pain of these only nighttime fights is you gotta constantly sit down at the grace and change the time of day to kind of bait him out, which is time consuming, but it's a small price. Whatever. Our good old simpleton here. Ow. So there's an example of what kind of happens sometimes with that night cav, right? Though I've only seen it once, but I have seen it once to where he will actually call his horse back. And I think that's only if you're kind of like attacking him while you're staying on your horse and he's like on foot. Because after that one time, I usually tried to fight him on foot while he was on foot. Just because he's so slow and clunky, it's not that hard. Plus, I'm used to fighting on foot anyways. Plays less of a risk. Now this is really why I kind of wish I had my telescope, because you can kind of see some of these guys up here, and if I kind of just charged in, I'm pretty sure he would alert all of his pals. So we're going to kind of come up here first. Take up his backside. See, at first glance, that kind of looks like he's looking through a telescope, but we're smarter than that. We know that's not what that is. At least I hope. We know now. Ah, so there's that big old black cart that we were talking about. We know it's just a big old moving treasure chest. Now, the question is, can we handle getting it? I'm going to say yes. Now, something I learned is usually those guys with the flags, I think they usually have the horns, so they're your first priority. Take them out. Get rid of them. Because... Oh! See? I heard it. I don't think we took care of them all. So we're going to have rush down. Oh, or maybe not. Who made the call? And why aren't they paying attention? Wow, we're just getting everything here. We started off as the Vagabond class, which starts you with nothing. No clothes whatsoever. Not the Vagabond, but the... it's whatever the level 1 all 10s class is. But I would be swimming in armor now. Oh, hello, boys. So here is the plus side of horse combat, is you have so much mobility and freedom to do whatever you want on some of these slow guys. You just gotta not get hit, is all. But I love the combat in this game. It's so much fun. Alright, that takes care of step 1. Let's take out our last few here. Torch guys are a pain. They have deceivingly long range and they'll just stun lock you all day, every day. So let's take out our last obstacle here. Ooh, that was... He's wielding that horse cleaver. Now if we're quick enough... Nope, we weren't quick enough. But funny enough, they have a new critical attack in this game where if they fall off their horseback, you can actually give them this big ol' stab down. It's actually really cool. So you can't access the chest until the cart comes to a stop. Best way to do that is to kill one of these guys. You don't have to kill both. One's enough. You know what? We're just gonna come off. Just to prevent any damage to our horse here, because I like Torrent. He doesn't deserve it. Big sword, big posture break. Let's go. Bringing down the house. Now I can't see what he's doing, but my guess is he's prepping for something. Owie. Now, this is why you only got to take out one. Look at that guy. Kneeling like for his lord or something. I forget what this is. I think it's the big axe. Yep, big axe. Now, being quality, this is mostly focused on strength, but if you look at the scaling, they're both D. Now, as you upgrade, it'll probably favor one more than the other, but quality overall is the best and most superior physical build, just because you have to put in all of that devotion into 2 stats. Oh, these guys are kind of running. I'll feel bad if I attack them. I'm not doing it. I won't do it. I'll spare them. Oh yes, here's that little spot that we were at with the flower. Now these things confused me so much in my first playthrough. These, if you use your... I don't have any right now, but you'll find these fingered ointment things that you can use to see the summon signs, and funny enough, these guys will always hold some summon sign if you meet the requirements and levels of the area. People put down a sign. You can either just put down a sign right where you're standing, or if you're in a specific area, this right here will automatically put your sign on any of these guys. So it actually makes co-op really fun in this game, because you can actually find people more accurately, more commonly, and you kind of have like options. More options is always nice. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. Now, I don't feel like getting poisoned, so I'm going to kind of just not deal with this. I don't have anything to prevent that poison from happening yet, so I'm just going to kind of go down here. Now, some of these ruins will hold bosses. Some of them will just hold... Uh-oh. Now, this is why I hate that stupid flower. He'll continue attacking no matter where you're at sometimes. But some will hold bosses, some will hold just items. This one's a little different, as you can see. Now, we're going to 1v1 this guy. We can summon for this boss fight, but I'm just going to try to take him out myself. He's got that big old helmet, and it's so low-hanging that you kind of have to swing around the back. You might want to heal. It's probably a good idea. Now, see, there's that situation where you got to really choose your time. So for the fact that he has that big helmet, the fact that you can't really attack his front, you'll find that your parry, well, not your parry, but your shield attacks are not very helpful. Especially since it's so aggroed in the front. You don't want to, you really want to hover his left side just because that's where his weapon is. Just kind of give him a smackdown every now and then. Now I'm mistiming things a lot for such a simple boss too. So let's kind of gain our bearings here again. There we go. So you got to really watch that startup sometimes, because they'll have a trick up their sleeve here and there. There's that head again. The downside to big slow weapons, you got to make your swings count. Bring it around town. We have no more flasks, so we gotta really play our cards right here. Use everything we got. Little pumpkin man trying his hardest. Reset neutral here. Uh-oh. Yep, there it is. It happens. But what can you do? We got a steak. We don't need to worry too much. Alright, so those steaks will actually really help you. Because, as you can see, they look like these armless looking things. It's helpful in the beginning, but you'll find as you continue throughout the game, it's not going to be something you want to rely on. They're not going to be everywhere anymore. Uh-oh, we're lost. Lost. Was it in here? No. I've made a mistake. Or not? Okay, here we are. Never mind. Let's pick up the runes. Oh, shoot. We actually had a lot. Okay. We were playing a big risk going on here with our limited ruins. Or, not our limited ruins, but our massive pool of ruins. There's that second slam that caught us last time. Bring it back a little, just because we know he's slow. So you gotta watch that bleed build up. You don't wanna... So there's another reason why we're going quality, is because I would like at some point to maybe show you guys just how strong bleed builds are in this game for bosses. Because they have a habit of not giving a balanced damage. They have a percentage on health for bosses and enemies in PvE. You'll find that it always hits with a whenever it procs, it'll always hit a certain percentage of health. So that's why it always varies and has a lot on some and not much on others. But that's really, really good for enemies that have a lot of health, because it always does a base set. So no matter how much damage you're doing, it's always going to be good. Because percentages is always good. Oh, 3 times. So let's think carefully here. I think what we'll do is we're going to just kind of restore a little, get ourselves a little bit more HP and a little bit more endurance and a little bit more dexterity, just so we can match up those 2 stats a little bit better, as well as give ourselves more quality of life things too.
Tarnished, are we? I am sorry.
So here's our next NPC. She's another.
I was exiled from the as a reviled.
As you can see, she was exiled from Raya Lucaria. That's just the magic school in this game.
Very well.
If you keep telling her that you want to learn sorceries, she will allow you to study sorceries. She's just another merchant in this game. If you ever find scrolls, magic scrolls, you just give it to one of the merchants that are able to learn those, and you can just learn more. So nice and helpful. Yes. Let's kind of organize this for later. I have a set way of setting this up just to kind of be comfortable with. We'll do the sit downs on this one, and we will do the bow there. Yep. And that will be for stuff like this. So celebratory, point down, because classic. You gotta do it to him sometimes. There's your sit down. Alright, that'll do for now. Alrighty, so we're gonna keep trudging south. That is our goal for our first step during our first stream. We're just gonna keep going south. And if we keep going this path, we'll find our way there very quickly. Nice try, bucko. Uh-oh. I don't trust like that. Like I said, oh. So, I like to free aim a lot. Not everybody likes to. They usually like to lock on like this. It makes it easier. But considering I've been playing this game for a long time, if you kind of get used to just free aiming and just kind of do your best at just swinging and manipulating the camera, you'll find certain things to be a little easier. Just because if you don't have to rely on it, you don't have to worry about it. So mostly in a 1v1 situation, you can always just lock on, makes things easy. But if you're in a boss room where there's like multiple enemies, or if you're in the field with multiple enemies, of course, or if you have one of those like big giants, for example, and they're so tall that you can't even see what's going on, I just like to go free aim just so I can have full mobility and be able to see what's going on the camera. Because your biggest enemy is camera angles in this game. Never forget that. That did a lot. Yep, we got greedy. We missed. Okay. I don't know why he did that. He just kind of ignored us there. He tapped us once and said, I'm out. kill that horse and kind of show you guys that new... Oh, no. Maybe not. Maybe someday. But not today. Alright. Now, whenever you see them sparklies, you best be charging over there. Always go for the sparklies. Always. Okay. No, we're not quite there yet for leveling up, so we'll... You know what? Why not? We'll take out a few guys, get there. Just for a little quality of life thing. Just so we're not holding all these ruins. Because mistakes can always happen. Oh! Mistakes can always happen. Alright. Yet another set of gauntlets. We're kind of lucking out here. Alright. Let's take our seat. I guess I should have checked to see if this was enough. Nope. It's always easier to just check it on the status menu, but I foolishly made the choice to just do that. Friend. Now the classic crab. Crabs are a little bit easier in this game with the new mechanics, because they kind of just get poise broken sometimes. A little bit too easy. With the jump attacks and the guard breaks and the who's its and what's its. We'll upload that. Why not? Now these guys are a pain. They'll just fly in and fly out. The biggest reason they're a pain is because you can't warp when you're in combat. And whenever those things are in your area, they're considered combat, so it kind of makes things Uh-oh. Yep. There's that hit stun we're talking about. They killed the bug. They killed the bug, and I didn't get... Okay, it's still there. Whew. I was worried. I was worried they'd kill the bug, and I wouldn't get the rewards for it. Let's try to get this fast, shall we? There we go. Okay. Maybe we shouldn't attempt it with 2 crabs. Also, what am I doing? We forgot about the goal here. We're going south. We're exploring. There we go. Good old 16-16 split. All right. So you will find all these fun little Evergoals spread out the place. Now, something I didn't know, because my first playthrough I kind of didn't summon too much, but I found out that these Evergoals, if you like summoning a lot, good luck with these guys, because you cannot summon in Evergoals. These little boss fights are unsummonable. You cannot summon spirits or anything. You just kind of got to rely on your own skills. So let's check. Whoops. We're already kind of failing ourselves here. But the good thing about them is most of them have the little statue, so you kind of can just try again really quick. But let's kind of not do that again. Showing our inner scrubs. Pick up our 53 ruins because why not? And head our way back in for round 2. So you will find that you got a slight moment here to... Uh-oh. There it is. Okay. So with this guy, you always kind of got to look out for that follow-up. And those feint attacks, of course. And he does have basic bleed up, so you might want to watch out for that too. Lots of things to watch out for this basic boy. Now, do we keep trying, or do we keep embarrassing ourselves, or are we going to continue? Now we'll keep trying. It's fine. It's fine. We can do this. It's nothing. We got our shield, and we got our big sword. We have nothing to worry about. Ah, yes. As we get baited out very easily. Now this is where we can't get greedy. We're just going to top off. Alright, there we go. There we don't go. So when it comes to these faster enemies, sometimes you don't want to stick with the big sword. Sometimes you're going to want to switch up because it's just rough sometimes when you don't have as many openings and how fast some of them can be. Like that, you can kind of see how it can get a little rough when you're not used to his movements. And when you constantly keep rolling into his attacks like I'm doing here, you might want to try to switch up your game plan. So we'll try a few more times with the big sword, see what we can do. But we also have that smaller sword too that we can use. So, for example, that's why melee builds are so handy-dandy, because you can always swap out to another weapon. So here's a little fun thing that you can do too is you got multiple weapon slots, so if you have the equip load for it, you might as well use it. Because your secondary weapon, you can always have reflect the opposite for your first weapon. I got a big slow weapon and I got a small fast weapon, right? You can swap out to whatever kind of fits the situation. So if we fight this guy, we have a lot more leeway to just have opportunities. Now we're going to wait for a second, be patient here and there. Now already we're seeing a huge difference on gameplay here. It's a lot easier to punish and find those scenarios. We don't do as much damage, but that's not my concern. The concern is to, at the very least, hit him without getting hit as much as we were. The less hits we take and the more hits we give, that's the equal trade-off here. If you can't hit him, it's not worth it. So the best thing is to not stay stubborn with it. No. getting a little used to his swings here. Maybe we can swap. Because, like I said, it's a comfort thing. You don't have to stick with one weapon. In fact, you can even swap in between during some fights. I found it actually quite easy that if you kind of swap around mid-fight sometimes, it actually is a lot more helpful than just sticking with a singular scenario. So for example, two-handing or one-handing, you can swap during the fight depending on what's going on. Or different weapons. Okay. That's my favorite move to counter. As you can see, he'll have that fun little swirly attack, and that's probably our best bet when it comes to punishing. Ah, there's that greedy chug. Let's not do that. Don't get baited. Oh! The pre-shield helping us once more. Now we're gonna stay quick here. I'm not gonna swap out this time because we gotta be extra careful with our lack of flasks. This is where legends are made. As we take it real hard. Okay, never mind. So, as you can see in our performance there, that is where you're going to want to have your backup weapons. Some weapons are just not gonna do it for you. You either gotta be completely devoted or semi-flexible here. So we're going to stay flexible. That's why we did the quality build. The quality build helps you really be flexible with any kind of weapon type. Whether you want to do pole arms, small weapons, big weapons. It really helps you out there. Now once you start getting used to the attacks, and you don't think you need to do the pre-shield much anymore, you can definitely start doing so, because when you hold up your shield, your stamina doesn't restore as fast. So you kind of have to be a little bit more patient sometimes here and there, because you don't, whoops, you don't have a means of, there we go. You don't have a means of stamina if you kind of just constantly shield constantly, right? So for example, that's unshielded stamina regain real fast, right? Now if I just sit here and shield, you can see how slow that gain is, so you got to be careful. So kind of begin with that shield strat, and then once you get more comfortable, you can kind of hold the shield down here and there and not just hold it up so much. And when you realize that if you kind of just do like last second shield right before you dodge, it will kind of make things a little bit stamina dependent too. Or you won't be as stamina dependent as normally. Alright, there's that double spin. There's that jump. Jump attacks are pretty easy to punish. Back out, heal. Perfect. Alright. So here we are, set up. There's that jump. Perfect. Kind of just keep maneuvering yourself. Don't rush things. Just, if you miss, you miss. It's no big deal. Try again. Here we go. Excellent. Oh, maybe not. All right. And you know what? We're going to try something here. We're going to mix things up a little bit, because sometimes... Oh, all right. Maybe we don't have the luxury to mix things up, so we're not going to mix things up. We're going to keep it safe. All right. This is where everything counts. No heals for either party. Oh, there's that bait out. We gotta be careful. And there it is. We're getting real close. We're getting real close. So, my suggestion, for my own self, not really for you guys, is I kind of have to get a little bit more used to talking as well as fighting at the same time. Because you're focusing on one more than the other, so that's kind of probably my concern here. That's why I'm being a little bit more sloppy than usual, but it's alright. We'll get used to it. Because I want to make sure that you guys stay updated on every situation, and also to make sure that this doesn't get too boring. Alright, there we go. So here we are, we're being a little bit more patient, and this time we're using our big weapon. Now that right there, now that swing right there was, believe it or not, a buffer. You'll find that if you press a button right when you get hit, or right when you shield, sometimes it'll kind of buffer stuff out, so you kind of got to watch out for that. The most dangerous thing I found in Dark Souls 3 and this game, that because it kind of carried over, is the buffer system. So when you get hit and you kind of tried to roll beforehand, so you rolled late, right? And you get hit, sometimes it'll buffer out a roll after you got hit, and it'll put you into a stressful situation. So that's why if you roll too early, it's not as scary, but when you roll too late, it's a little bit more scary, because it's gonna put you in that position where you're gonna get punished, not only because you missed the roll, but also because it buffered a roll next. So on that boss's next attack, you're kind of in a less friendly scenario, you know? So he doesn't really drain too much stamina when he attacks, so we're gonna kind of utilize that with our shield. We can kind of be a little bit more shield heavy with this boss, which leads me to my previous point. We're gonna try doing that a few more times, see if we can break that poise. Because if he's not going to drain our stamina as much, then we can kind of utilize that. So we just got to find the right moves to do it. Probably like that. But let's kind of back up a second, because even though we're shielding his attacks, we're building up that bleed, and I would rather not get that procced on myself here. So we'll do that, and then when he does jump attack, that's when we'll do this. Or maybe not. I guess he reacts a little too fast for that. So, we'll just... we'll keep standard attacks for jumps. This is the kind of stuff you kind of want to learn as you fight too, because if you're a beginner, you'll... oh, we staggered him there. Because if you're a beginner, you're gonna die. It's gonna happen. In fact, even if you're a veteran, you're gonna die. So some of these things, whether you fought the boss multiple times and beat him before, like I've beat this guy before, you tend to learn more stuff every single time. So boom. All right, just like that. So you'll learn more every time. In fact, that weapon is actually going to be very handy in this run, because like I said at least 100 times now, we have a quality of life to where we have options with all kinds of weapons. So as soon as we kind of rank up our stats here, we need a little bit more strength and a little bit more dex, and we'll be able to use this. And as you can see on the passive, it has a pretty good bleed buildup. So when we start fighting other bosses, we can kind of utilize that and just kind of see how well that ability is on hand. You know, you can kind of just have options on whether you want to do bleed or you just want to do pure damage. And here we will see these kind of weird throne things. They're scattered all about the world, right? And each one you'll find a item here that I can show you. So, okay, here it is right here. It's a Starlight Shard, right? It kind of gradually just recovers your FP over time. Now, these are in limited supply. I don't think there's a way of farming them later on. So you kind of want to be a little bit careful on using those. I am not going to lie to you. I have never used one up until now. So I can't tell you if it reacts the same way as a rune arc or not. But I don't think it does. I'm pretty sure it just gives you that first and foremost steady MP growth, right? Uh-oh. Let's swing back around and give him the smackdown. Yes, here's a torrent thing. So, funny enough, I thought when it said that it negates all fall damage, I thought it only meant for, like, when you, like, jump up initially, but also if you just fall onto it. See, here is it talking about how it negates damage. You can fall wherever you want. So, it doesn't mean just the initial, like, fall on the launch like that. Like, you'll never take damage from that. But if you're close to it and you just fall from anywhere, you take no fall damage, which is really handy. I hear him. I hear him. I hate these bugs. So, they're mobile. They can die in one hit, but damn, if you're a melee build, good luck getting that one hit. I don't have any daggers to kind of take them out, so we're just going to kind of bait out an attack here. Come on, bucko. Or maybe not. Yeah, it's not worth it. Just watch, as soon as I turn my back, he's going to take a swing. Now, as more people probably start joining the chat, we can probably have a little bit more discussions on stuff, but at the moment, I'm kind of just rambling. So whenever you guys kind of want to just converse or have any questions, I can try my best to answer. But right now, I think I'm just going to chat about here and there. Just about every random little thing that we run into here. Okay, so here's our first obstacle on our journey to the south. We need to get past this bridge first, and it's kind of heavily guarded, so we're going to kind of sneak in. Because if I do recall, there is a big ol' fun ballista over there. Uh-huh, yep, there. There it is. Alright. Good thing it's got friendly fire, huh? So, okay, we'll let it shoot one more time. Because I don't feel like taking an explosive bolt to the face. Hey, buddy. Get out of here. Okay, that was generous. Then again, Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. Clear it out. Pretty simple stuff. Just gotta take your time. Aha. So we just need one more of those and we can actually go into that secret spot in the first area. Or we could save them. Whatever works. I usually like saving them so I can have at least a surplus. So, okay. Level up. We only got enough for one, so you know what I'll do? I think we have enough endurance for now. With how endurance works in this game, you kind of don't need to focus on endurance too much unless you're really focusing on getting some of that build up on your carrying capacity, because encumbrance is the only thing you really need to worry about early game with stamina. You don't have to really worry about the stamina for too much longer because... Whoops. Well.
Hello? Is somebody there?
No harm, no foul.
My name is a servant. But I swear, my good father decided him.
No harm, no foul. That little hit didn't do anything, luckily. Not that it'll matter later on.
The servants who've since come, I fear it's no place.
So, okay, she's going to give us our first little quest. The first little quest is not anything too special. It's just deliver the letter.
Deliver it to my father.
Oh, she's still talking.
In the castle, if you please.
So this castle she's talking about is actually the first destination that I was talking about. It is what I am actually looking for. But here we are in our first roadblock. Now here's one of those big old black cubbies again that we're talking about. And our favorite enemies, of course. We're going to just get rid of that right away. Now with the knights sitting on about, I'm just going to kind of sneak around them. And we are presented with our first new enemy. We're going to just keep it over here, because... There we go. So, as you can see, most of the things here can't see us yet. So we're just going to focus on the ones that are mostly the problem. Dogs swarm, and I do not like that, so I am going to take care of that first. There we go. Okay. So these shields that these guys have, they're actually a really good first starting shield, funny enough. Now, you're going to have to be a character that has 16 strength, because that's how much you need to be able to wield it. But if you are going to follow a semi-strength build, or you're going to have at least 16 strength for whatever requirements for whatever you're going to use, and you only want a medium shield, as standard as they are, and as common as you'll find them to be, the brass shield is actually like the best medium shield to go for, just because of how common they are, and how it only requires 16 strength, and it's 100% block. It's like one of your best options for a medium 100% block shield. Now, starting off with already with 100% physical block shield, I don't have too much concern, but for anybody who starts a class that doesn't have that option, you can always go for that, or there's another person, one of those merchants will actually sell one that's got only 12 strength requirement, and that, for any kind of mage build that doesn't want to invest too heavily in strength, it's a great option. So I'll eventually show you guys where that merchant is at some point if you don't know. It's called the Blue Golden Cross Shield or something like that. I use it on my other account with my mage just because it's a great 100% block shield if I ever need it early on. Very useful. But shields are not a necessity in this game, so if you don't want to have a shield, you don't have to get one. I just like them because for certain fights, it's a good backup. It's a really good backup for if you miss the roll or if you can't react fast enough. It's just a good swap out if you're not used to the fights yet. So any of those faster fights, like the one that we just had with the Bloodhound, or if you're in areas with a lot of these dogs, you can see how easily it is to just get overwhelmed, and the shield just really helps against these dogs because they stagger a lot, and that attack almost always hits. Don't quote me that it always hits, but a lot of the times your shield break, or whatever you call it, the riposte attack, will always usually hit to where you can just stun him, break that posture, and just take him out. Easy peasy. Otherwise, you're going to have to be patient and run circles, and if you're anybody who's like me, who just hates dog enemies, I never want to have to deal with it. Now there's that big poise break. Bring down the pain. Now, I feel like the best way to fight these guys is to just free roam it. Free aim it, is what I mean. Because, as you can see, I have all this mobility. I don't have to focus on its linear focus. It's just nice to just have a standard ability to know exactly what he's doing all the time. Just like that, see? Owie. Now, I will say, it's a lot harder to block if you're a blocker. But, ooh. But if you don't block usually, free aim's very helpful technique. It's just very simple, very easy. Once you start getting the hang of it. Okay. Let's try this again. In fact, funny enough, if you didn't want to go through the center, I do believe you can just kind of go around. If you climb these rocks right here, you can actually avoid the center conflict very easily. Or am I wrong? Oh wait, no, I'm not wrong. Because whether you can climb up there or not, it's not the concern. If we remembered from earlier, you got one of those torrent rises, so we'll just take that up real quick and see where it was. Oh wait, I'm a liar. That was on the other side of the bridge. Whatever, it's fine. I know for a fact, because I didn't go through this way the first time, I know for a fact that there is another way of going, so you don't have to go this way. You can find an easier way around. But just because my souls are right there, and also it's always nice to get all this money. Whoops. Got a little ahead of ourselves there. See, there's that stun that just really helps out. Okay. See, I don't even have to... Whoa! You don't really have to move, really. Very simple technique, especially with a faster weapon. Like, here, you know what? There's still a few more dogs left. I'll swap to the straight sword and I'll kind of show you that. Despite the fact that it's still slower, it's still a little faster, and it just makes it a little more convenient. So, okay, we'll just kind of bait one of these guys out. Because the last time we backstabbed this guy, I think this front one looks... Yep, there we go. So, a little bit faster, a little bit more convenient for faster enemies, but also each weapon has like a certain amount of stun build up, right, for your posture break, so it's going to be less, but with dogs, it's so low that you're not even going to have to worry about that too much. So actually, since we're dealing with dogs, let's switch the straight sword real quick. Get a quick stab in. Uh-oh. Yeah, we're not going to risk it. Just got to be very careful here. Don't let yourself get surrounded. This is where free aim can help if you need. But if you kind of just listen, you don't really need to deal with that either. So sorry for anybody who likes to play the game without sound or doesn't pay attention too much to it, but you're kind of letting yourself get wrecked there if you do. Or you're just better than me, I don't know. So same technique, did the same poise break, as you can see. It's going to be a build-up. And it's always the same. Every single enemy has its own poise or posture, whatever you want to call it. Not really poise, but posture. Each one has a certain amount, and it depends on what you use, is how soon you possibly even think about breaking it. So let's be patient. There we go. He's got his sword out now, so we're going to have to be a little bit more careful after what happened last time. There we go. So bait out the big attacks. Just kind of lock on for the stomps and then bring it back to free aim. Because, like I said, shielding those attacks are not very easy. Okay. There we go. Easy peasy. And you know what? If you had a bleed weapon, you just kind of keep at it, and you'll find that any kind of fleshy character, like one of those, or dogs or whatever, they all have a bleed buildup. So as long as you're not fighting like empty armor or something, you'll be fine. All right, easy peasy. So now that this area is cleared out, we can just collect a few materials here and... Okay. Buggy boy. So if you can ever use horse, definitely a lot easier to fight these guys on horseback, just because you can catch up real fast. Easy, just like that. Now he gave us a bow skill, and you know what? Being a quality build, bows will actually be quite helpful with this character. So honestly, whenever we find a bow, we might just use it. So here's another merchant. Check out what he's got here in just a second. Let's get our grace up real quick. Alright, so let's focus on that one there, and then we'll get 2 more in dexterity later, and we'll kind of utilize this guy just to kind of show off how helpful that bleed might be. So, okay, this guy's got a stone sword key, so I'm probably going to come back and buy these. I usually always buy them just to have a surplus. And these are really helpful if you are a first-time player. They kind of just give you hints and tricks. So if you ever want to buy them just to get a few more ideas, you can always do that. Always have an option. But considering you're watching the stream, you're probably either a new or old player, but I've kind of read all of them, so I'll probably end up kind of hovering over those kind of ideas as we go along. So I'll buy the pot for crafting later. So here we go. There's that castle that the daughter, quote-unquote, was talking about. And there's another one of those pillars. Perfect. We can expand our map so we can stop looking at this big ol' blotch. As you can see, we're not really in a safe spot to be checking our map, so let's kind of just wander our way over some cover, because something big is waiting for us. As soon as the combat song stops, that's our cue to be able to check our map here. If it ever decides to stop, of course. Alright, you know what? It's not really a concern right now. We'll just keep wandering until it stops. It's kind of being a pain in the butt. Now, if we were able to check our map, you would find this little thing on the map as well. Poisonous swamps can be traveled on horseback without having to worry about the poison, but just be careful that you're not wandering in it too much, because you'll get that build up. And for my Dark Souls 2 fans, you'll find that if you roll in any kind of poison stuff like that, it'll kind of cling to your clothes for a second. Just like how it did in Dark Souls 2. So if you're not careful, you'll gain steady poison buildup without even knowing about it sometimes. So I saw something with those jellyfish. I kind of want to see what they're guarding here. So you'll find spirits flying all around Limgrave and the world, but most of them are non-hostile. But if they're red like this, they're probably going to be hostile. And if they're standard enemies, they're also probably going to be hostile. But usually those jellyfish are pretty safe. You don't have to worry too much about them. Okay, so we're going to have to watch out for this guy. We don't want to get blasted in the Kingdom Come. So for these guys, you could easily skip him, but I'm going to just attack him. His glowy bits are his sensitive bits. And if you hit enough times, well, you know, you'll get the opportunity, as per usual. Kind of give us some great arrows there. Nice. Ah, now we can check our map. So here we are in our Weeping Peninsula, the most southern you can get in your map. Here is where our first stop is. So we're going to climb our way up into. Also, real quick, this line that you see, it signifies no horses allowed. So just keep that in mind. I'm sure a lot of you know that already. It's just sometimes you miss some of these minor details that they have. Also, if you don't want to listen to me talk about some of these ideas and new mechanics, if you go into your inventory, on the far right, they have little information bubbles that you can just look at all you want. And if you buy any of those information scrolls, that's where they're going to show up. So if you ever want to look at them, just go there and you can just kind of learn about the game a little bit. But here we are, on our way up with our beautiful Lord Sorn swords. I love them. I love them. They're all beautiful and gold. But like I said, there's a special treasure we're after. Well, I'm after, at least. So here we are, Castle Morn. We're gonna sneak our way around, because if we do this right, we'll only attract a few enemies to where it's a little bit more manageable. So sneak our way around. So we'll let them come on over here so we don't have any distractions. So normally you can get a riposte after that, but I'm just going to slash them up since I got a big enough weapon. So here we are. We're in the Armament Center, and here is what we're looking for. Veterans old or newbies new, here is the Old Faithful. The good old Claymore. My personal favorite. This is probably the weapon I'm going to be using. Now, the reason why I like this one so much more than most other greatswords is if you do your heavies, you'll see that they're thrusting attacks, right? It gives us that variety compared to the other heavy attacks where they're just slashing slams, to where it just really makes it useful to have that variety, okay? So some enemies kind of have a tendency to be stronger against slashing or bludgeoning, or all. You've got bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, and some things, there's not many things that resist piercing too much, and anything that has armor, it's going to be weak to your piercing. So that's why these heavy attacks are so handy, because you just have that variety. You got your basic slashing swings, you got your thrusts, and also it just kind of, if you're free aiming it, you can just aim it anywhere you want, because once you got that stab in, it's just perfect. Also, the quote-unquote Leo ring in this game, its counterattack damage only works with piercing attacks. So if you're in some kind of PvP scenario, you can kind of just run away and kind of hide the fact that you're doing this and just turn around and stab them. Give them, like, very close to one shot sometimes, you know? So these guys are kind of fighting each other. I'm going to just kind of take this opportunity to take them all out. So also with thrusting attacks, you just get all that range. It's so convenient. I just love being all the way back here and just stabbing at a safe distance. So when they're swinging wild like that, you can just lay on them. Now, the one thing is, it's not good for groups, so that's what your swings here are for. Nice, we got our torch. We got our first torch. So since I don't have to worry about a catalyst for any casting, I can use this torch here to put in my offhand, but that's just going to make it a little too heavy, so considering we're not in a dark area, I won't concern myself with it. Until I get more endurance, we'll just swap out with these weapons here. Look at that beautiful sheath there too. Look at that. Makes it so pretty. What do you think? Do we drop down here? Probably. I never went this way the first time. I usually just went through the courtyard, but there's your courtyard. So not too far. Not too different. We'll just drop down here. If I remember, yep, there he is. Just give him the good old stun. Whack him a few times, and then golden. So we'll just kind of maneuver our way back around from up this top way, just because I know it'll get us back to our general area. Take this guy out real quick, because you'll find some bow dudes shooting at you. They'll be able to aggro you before you can even consider your options. So the best way to deal with these guys is to try to get them down. And just be really careful with when they're shooting. You don't want to push yourself too hard, too fast. Alright, now as he flies lower, we're going to try to swing. If we miss, just back it up, try it again maybe later. And if they just bring themselves down, that's just your opportunity to take them out. Easy peasy. Alright. Now let's just kind of round our way around for a second. Here you got to drop down to another grace, but we'll hold off on that because once you go down, there's no handy message that tells you this time, but if you just know, if you go down there right now, you can't get back up to this spot, so it's a little bit more handy to just stave off from going that way first and just go explore this first barrier area first. Nice try. Take him out. Give him the repost just because he thought he could trick us up. Perfect. Alright, so we got a smithing stone for upgrades later. And an iron cleaver for utility. Okay, so if you were paying attention, that right over there is our first spot. But what we're going to do is we're going to drop down on this guy first. Plunging. There we go. Okay. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit to make sure we didn't miss anything, I'm going to sneak past big old pumpkin head there, because not a boss anymore, are we? So we're just going to sneak around, make sure none of these guys see me to where they attack me in an area with that pumpkin man. We don't want to get too much aggro. So let's take care of these dogs, shall we? Do small weapon just to whip them into shape here. Just stand here, bait out the attack, give it a good swing, and take it out while it's stunned. Easy as can be. That's why you always want a second armament, just to kind of complement your first one, right? If you got a big and slow weapon, maybe you should use a fast and quick weapon, just to have a little variety. That's what this whole quality build is for, right? And unlike the small weapon, you got that big sweeping for groups. So if you're careful enough, you can just kind of do that. More smithing stones. Nice. Okay. So looking at my runes here, I know I have enough to level up, but I might just get a few more here, just to sneak our way up. Take him out real quick and back it up. Back it up. And this is my favorite part about that claymore. You can get that fast thrust in there, so when they charge you down, boom. Just like that. I know I have a friend that really likes to use the Bastard Sword, which is basically the second reoccurring heavy greatsword that you find in early game. Now, the only concern I have about it is, even though this does slightly more damage, the other one has a little bit less stamina usage, and ooh, it has all swinging attacks, all slashing attacks. There's no stabbing or piercing. So it doesn't give you that variety, but it gives you a good standard, less requirements to use, less stamina on its attacks for a trade-off of a little less damage and a little less, you know, versatility. But it's not a bad weapon. Just something I prefer not to use. You can use whatever you want. Honestly, you can kind of check out so many different kind of crazy things that people like to do in these kind of games. Like, I know Iron Pineapple, if you guys know who that is. He has a fun video where he shows us his build where he does only summons, and he does a pacifist run by he does summons only, and he does like only heals, so he can't do any kind of damage to enemies. And that just kind of goes to show how overpowered some of these summons can really be. You can solo the entire game without doing a single drop of damage yourself. Oh, okay. Hello. Now this is where you want to be careful with dogs. This is why I hate them so much. They can swarm you so easily if you're not careful. Alright, take them out. Keep calm. Let's try not to, in fact, since this has a higher crit... Oh, or we can just miss the, we go. I was going to say, since the Lord Sworn's straight sword has a higher crit, we could use that for our backstabs, but you know, because despite the fact that the Claymore does more damage, it might not do as much on critical attacks, which is the trade-off, right? But here we go, bait him out. Got a little greedy there. So that's another thing about these guys that fly. If you hit a mid-flight, they kind of just get a little messed up. Because, you know, you kind of need that. There's nothing to keep you from getting flung all over the place if you're just, like, in the air, so. Despite being a thrust, it's got some meaty range, if you saw there from that guy getting hit from the side. Alright, bring him down. Use that new ability just so I can get that iframes. Or not! Or not! No, I know someone's behind me. Yep. Gotta keep that awareness. There we go. Alright. Last guy. This time we'll get it. Use the iframes so this guy can't hit us while we're attacking, right? Missed the backstab. Oh boy. There we go. It gives us the opportunity to get a good heavy charged in. Uh-oh. See, there's that buffer I'm talking about. All those were not me trying to roll after getting hit, but me rolling before getting hit and it, you know, buffering after you get hit. So it's rough if you're kind of not, you know, ready for it, or if the enemy has a combo. So that's why if you're thinking of rolling maybe a little earlier versus a little later, obviously you can't really control that, but it's always better to roll earlier than later. Because having that stressful situation is just not fun. So let's see here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to maneuver through Castle Morn here. And then afterwards, I think we'll end the stream there just to make sure that it doesn't get a little too long. But we still got plenty of time. So we'll push our way through Castle Morn and see what we can do. There's that combos. Just make sure we don't kill ourselves here. We got to be careful. Push too hard, you might find yourself in a terrible position. Alright. Now, from what I remember, there's nothing really up there, and I know that big guy doesn't give you anything, so we're just going to kind of pass that. Just because we don't want to waste too much time, right? Also, we have all these souls, so... Now, unlike the first time, we actually get a free moment to get some free damage on this guy. So, let's do so. And funny enough, we'll stab right there, right in between those shoulder blades. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there's that buffer again. There we go. We won't let it get us this time, though. Alright, so what'd he drop? Nice. I know he drops his helmet, but I feel like it's a rare drop because in my first playthrough, I never got it. But the second playthrough I got it, so... I feel like you just have to get lucky or just farm them. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's any official drop rates for some, like, all items yet. But if you ever want to find specific items in certain playthroughs, if you're not either worried about spoilers or if it's just, you know, your second playthrough, if you're ever looking for specific weapons or stats and stuff like that, I suggest going to Fextra Life as well it's a really good wiki for all Souls content. So if you ever kind of want to look up any kind of helpful information on weapons or armors or just trying to find it, that's probably the best place to look for first. Now we're going to use that poise to kind of just get through that arrow just so we can kill that guy real quick so it's not... Let's see if we can bait one of these guys to get a little lower here. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, that's right. I forgot about the command grab. Okay. There's the one thing you can't rely on a shield for is those... Some enemies have grab attacks that you just can't shield, obviously. So it's just our one guy here. There's that grab. So we're going to avoid it this time. Get our heavy in. There we go. So it's a good thing that Grace is right over around the bend because we're going to want to utilize that with our one Estus. We're just going to drink that now, just for safety. We don't have any need for waiting yet. Okay, so let's sneak our way through here. There's a ladder so we can get back up. We'll go to that Grace as soon as we get around here because this is actually where we're going to want to find a specific person, actually. Let's kind of just sneak our way here to try to get all of them. There we go. Just take them all out at once. Easy. Well, the song's going nuts, but everything's dead, so I don't know what's going on here. Alright. So if you drop down and kind of just head around this little spot here, you will find our first guy here. Our NPC, man. Our dad.
There's a face I've not seen before. I'm Edgar.
So good old Edgar here. He's the father of What's-Her-Face. And she wants him to come home, and he wants to do his duty bull crap, you know. He's like, oh, I can't leave because this is my duty to the castle, blah, blah, blah.
I see. From Arena. Thank you. I mean, you're dead, but I can't leave yet.
So, yep, there it
Even
is.
if the castle should fall, this can
To ensure the treasured sword of Morn does not fall into the wrong hands.
Alright, so he's talking about the treasured sword. He's not going to leave until that treasured sword is either grabbed by us, spoiler alert, or... Well, you know, there is no other part 2. That's just how you got to do it. Either he dies, or he stays here forever, or you grab the sword and he goes and sees his daughter. Those are your options. And obviously, we know what we want to do, right? We want to complete that little quest. So we're going to wander our way back over here. This is where our Grace is. Now that we kind of thoroughly explored the castle, or the first part of the castle, we're going to do this. Come on down here. And use our saved up souls here. We got a lot. And there we go. 1817. That'll give us a good start here. Now, if you remember, we had this curved greatsword, right? It has that bleed buildup. Now, as much as I want to use that claymore, we'll kind of utilize this real quick just to kind of show off that bleed, right? So we couldn't get anywhere up, so only chance is to go down. Different kind of moveset. I never really used this weapon myself, so I'm just going to check out that moveset just so I don't mess myself up here. Okay, so a little bit more graceful than a standard greatsword, right? It's pretty cool. Now we could drop down there, or... Actually, if I remember correctly, if you kind of want to cheat the system here by just knowing the no, if you don't jump the normal way there, you will find a little secret spot right here. And you can just grab yourself another stone sword key. You'll find those kind of hidden in just spots all around the place. And since you kind of just grabbed it, instead of just falling all the way down the bottom, you can just grab it and just warp out and then come right back up, right? Just so you can kind of go the other way. Because if you can warp in this game, why not just utilize that, you know? So, alright. We're going to just drop down. Now, there's one enemy here. We're going to just do a few light attacks. See if we can get a bleed out. So maybe not. We do a little bit too much damage to those guys, but once we find a more sturdy enemy that has like a fleshy abilities, you'll find that the bleed really comes in handy. So actually, I think we got these fleshy creatures here. See, these blobs here are made out of... Oh, wow, this is actually pretty heavy. Yeah, wow, look at that. Made me fat roll. So I'm pretty sure these are just flesh creatures, so if we slash them up a bit, we might be able to proc a bleed. Although I could be wrong. They might not bleed. I can't remember if they're just like rotten flesh or trash or what, but there it is. There's that bleed. So as you can see, compared to the damage I'm giving right now, that bleed is super duper good. Especially with boss enemies or enemies with a lot of defense or health, right? Because it just does that percentage damage. It ignores everything. So you can just proc it as much as you want, or as much as you can, I should say. And it'll just boom, easy. Easy peasy. And you know, usually faster weapons are the better option when it comes to bleeding weapons, because you can get so many more hits out. And sometimes the bleed build up there, so the cause bleed loss or blood loss build up there, you see that number, that kind of just shows you how fast it'll kind of scale up. This shows 55. I know some other weapons have like just like 50, so if you have like a standard straight sword that's got 50 versus like a 55 great sword, not too big of a difference, not really worth it comparatively. So sometimes it's better to just go that smaller weapon, unless the bleed buildup is like a lot better, just because you get so many more hits out, you know. Now, considering I don't have my, I might actually, just for these guys, I might actually use this because their tankiness is kind of annoying. And I'll just stay here all day trying to take care of it, and I'd rather not do that. I'd rather proc that bleed and just kind of get him out of the picture. Just like that. One could say that's a little too much. No, I'm not going to say anything yet. It's too early in the game to see if bleed's overpowered or not. But I do know it's a very strong option to do against bosses in this game. Only certain bosses don't bleed, and it's just, you might as well go for it if it's an option, you know? Especially for like certain endgame bosses that we'll get to later. Nice. What do we got here? So we got another great axe. If we kind of just do this, we can kind of see what the difference is here. So this is... So one trades out for range, whereas the other's for damage. Got it. Okay. Kind of pocket that sword just so we can see it on our back as we climb. Okay, so on the topic here, if I do recall, we got another talisman. Now, considering we're not fighting anything fire-based, it's kind of useless to have this talisman on that I have on right now. Versus this guy right here. So the Twin Blade Talisman. If you look, it just says enhance final hits on chain attacks. All that really means is, like, if you just swing a bunch of lights of any weapon, there's usually like a quote-unquote finisher attack. So 1, 2, 3, and then this fourth attack right here, right? And then it just resets. That fourth attack is your chain attack. It just strengthens that final attack. For certain weapons, the chain attacks aren't that bad. They're kind of useful, but other situations not so useful. Just because the attacks are so slow, and unless you can stagger them, it's just not worth it. So okay, in a dungeon area where you can't really restore your flasks, these guys are just so useful. I just love finding those guys in dungeon areas, just because you kind of get that load off your shoulder. If you ever find a good old mountain, despite the fact there's nothing up here, and might as well just try to climb it. Why not, you know? Alright. So we're gonna find our spot to jump here. Kind of just get our way back down. Now that we got what we came for the first step, we're just kind of gonna complete this area just because we're already here, right? Another smithing stone. Nice. We can use that. Alright, so that's a rat. That's another rat. Okay. We're gonna kind of go to the doorway just so we can kind of choke all the enemies in one spot, not wanting to deal with it and getting surrounded, you know? Aye! Yep, don't get greedy. See, despite the fact that we got hit, at least we didn't die. We ain't dying to some rats. Gotta be smart. Okay. So now that we cleared this spot, let's grab our punishment weapon there and move our way over here. So, very helpful, Grace, in the center of this fantastical area. We're almost at the very end, so let's keep pushing. Oh, before we do so, though, if we have the ability to level up, we might as well do it now. Okay, so nice 18-18 there. I think next we'll go for our health and endurance, just so we can kind of have that little extra carrying capacity and a little extra health, because you can never have too much health, right? Okay, so if I can recall, you know, there's an enemy there, and there's an enemy here, so we're going to try to bait out this one, just so we don't... Oh, never mind. I guess they're going to both wake up. Oh, we're locking on that jelly. Actually, that just really helped us out. That, not so much. We're going to have to make some throwing daggers just so we can kind of get some range battle up in here. Well, speak of the devil, we shall equip some. Alright, so where are they? There we go. See how much damage they do. Ooh, there we go. Okay. Perfect. Now where's our other guy? Owie. So we're going to kind of try to be patient with this guy. Kind of just get the backstab. These guys are just really easy to backstab if you just kind of hover around them. You just got to be a little careful is all. Watch out for their slow attacks and just kind of punish. Easy peasy, right? Considering we just used 2 flasks and knowing from experience that The boss is right there. We're going to probably just kind of step our way back up. And sit at the Grace again. Just to restore our flasks. Because we didn't technically have to go that way with those beasts, so we don't have to, like, engage with them again. I just wanted the items up there because I just knew there was items. I don't think there's anything over there. Oh, actually, I'm totally wrong. I can see it. Alright. Oh, big crab. Didn't know he was here. Just gotta be careful. Hover his back. Get a good opening. Alright, perfect. Now that's a command grab. If you see bubbles in his mouth, he's gonna do one of two things. He's going to shoot bubbles at you, or he's going to grab you. There's that buffer again we were talking about. Yep, there it is again. Got to be careful. Okay. So there's the bubbles. Kind of take them out real quick. There we go. Hello, little friend. I love the crabs. Okay. There we go. Get some fire arrows. For our future when we decide to use a bow. Or whenever we find a bow. Alright. Actually, we don't even have to run up there. We can just do this. Speed things up a little bit. Okay. So, the best way to just kind of rush through this is if you jump right here, you don't take any fall damage, you don't have to fight any creatures. Just watch out for the jellies. Don't fall in the jellies, that'll aggro them a little bit. And then you can kind of just run right in. As easy as that. Alright. So, here is our boss of the area. Let's see what we can do. Now this guy is quite a rushdown, but if you can deal enough damage or enough poise break, he is staggerable, as you can see. You just gotta watch what you're doing, that's all. And sometimes you can interrupt his attacks if you got a big enough weapon and do certain attacks. But you gotta be careful. You gotta be really careful because he's got a lot of attacks that are gonna just kind of rush you down if you're not careful. Where was he going? Where was he going? I think he aggroed to some of the spirits out there for some reason. Oh yes, and like we kind of like showed with the I forget what it's called. It's that curved greatsword. The Bloodhound's Fang there. Like I said, bleed is a really strong option. So if you wanted to use that to your advantage, you could always bleed the boss. I feel like what we'll do in the future here is we'll probably have a secondary weapon of like a light bleeding weapon, just so we can kind of have like a variety. So we're gonna kind of avoid them real quick, just so we can get our runes here. Because every rune helps, right? Oop. We were a little too slow there. And I like that attack because it's really easy to punish. So, based off of my stab, that could be a quick heavy option. But it looks like I'm mostly going to probably want to do jump attacks because that gives the most poise break. And probably the shield breaks as well. So there's the punish. We're going to do a drop attack, and look at that. We broke his posture, just like that. So any kind of strong stagger attacks are probably going to do that. They're going to break posture a lot more sooner than anything else. So we're going to do our jump attack, and then do a follow-up because it has just broke his poise, right? Because if you see normally, my light attacks don't usually break his poise or his posture. So if you get that first posture break or that first poise break in first, then you can kind of do some follow-ups sometimes. But you got to be careful. So we're going to bait that out, run back in, posture poise break. I'm going to mix those up so frequently. Poise break, bring down the house. We're going to get greedy. There it is. Since he killed us, we're going to just do this to him. Point down, the classic. But as you can see, he gave us a grafted blade greatsword, which is going to be another fun option for us later. As we get more strength, we're going to probably use this colossal sword. Just because we have that variety option, right? So here we are. We got the sword. We got the other sword. We got options out the wazoo. What's going on? Well, this is awkward. I can't touch the grace. Well, that's a way to end it, I guess. Well, simple fix, I guess. We'll probably just load in the area, and that'll probably fix it. So, well, I think we have figured out what we have come to do. We'll just level up here at this grace since we already got it, right? There we go. So let's just get a little bit more endurance in there. Make a nice even 14. And for my people watching now, I hope you enjoyed your time here. That was our stream. It will be on the Discord's YouTube channel later as soon as we get it uploaded. So if you missed anything or if you wanted to go back to anything to try to kind of like maybe get some ideas on how to do certain things, you can always go back and see it in the YouTube video. Or if you just wanted to see the whole stream, you can go back there too. But thank you for joining me. That was our first Elden Ring stream, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Peace out.